Well, happy Friday, everyone. I hope you're doing amazing. Well, today we are going to be reading the second epistle of John in its entirety. Not very long. But what John says to the church, or to the elect lady, is that he stresses the most important things for the believers. And those two things are this: love and truth. Hi, I'm Pastor Mark with Heights Christian Church. What we're doing is we're going through the Bible in 5 years, and we would love for you to join us. So subscribe to this channel, be a part of it with us on a daily basis. So as we break up the Bible into small little bite-sized pieces, so on a daily basis we read the Bible. And in 5 years we'll have completed it. And so not only would you be reading it, not only will I be reading it, but the entire congregation of Heights Christian Church, who have committed to going through the Bible in 5 years, to know the Scriptures so that we know exactly what God is telling us and wants us and how we should live. Sound great? Okay, well, let's dive right into 2 John. The elder, to the lady chosen by God and her children whom I love in the truth, and not only I, but also all who know the truth, because of the truth which lives in us and will be with us forever. Grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Father's Son, will be with us in truth and love. It has given me great joy to find some of your children walking in the truth, just as the Father commanded us. And now, dear lady, I am not writing you a new command, but one we have had from the beginning. I ask that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk in obedience to His commands. As you have heard from the beginning, His command is that you walk in love. I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch out that you do not lose what we have worked for, but that you may be rewarded fully. Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teachings of Christ does not have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take them into your house or welcome them. Anyone who welcomes them shares in their wicked work. I have much to write to you, but I do not want to use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to visit you and talk with you face to face so that our joy may be complete. The children of your sister, who is chosen by God, send their greetings. Like I said, this was a very short epistle that John is writing a letter. And so questions come up. Who is this lady? And John doesn't even identify himself. He calls himself the elder. But from antiquity, this letter has been identified that it was the Apostle John writing it. And at this point, he's probably 90 years old. So most everyone knows him. And he calls himself the elder. And he's kind of, who is this lady chosen? Is this an actual lady? Or is this something else? Well, many believe, as I do, that this letter was actually written to a church. That the lady here is a church. And the children of the lady are members of the church in that particular area. And Paul writes this so that there's no names involved. So in case this letter gets intercepted, remember during this time there was much persecution on the Christians. And so he was not wanting to give anybody's name away so that they might be imprisoned or even killed. And so, and then at the end of the letter, when he talks about the sister of the lady, he could be talking about another church, and their children are sending their greeting. So it's one church that that John talks to is also in the midst of another fellowship or another church group. And he talks, it's a very short letter, but he talks about truth, and love. Remember, these are two aspects that Jesus himself talked about. In fact, let's look at a couple verses in the book of John. And John is in the upper room. He's talking to the disciples. He says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Yeah, so John is talking about this he says, this command I'm going to give you in this letter is an old one, because it's been since the foundation of Christianity that we are to love one another. And he talks about truth, because God's word is true, and the truth of God sending his son Jesus as a human is a paramount doctrine that must be adhered to. And there were deceivers going about saying that because Jesus was God, he could not deal with people. And that was apostasy. That was wrong. And it took away from the actual fact of Jesus being human and living a perfect life and being the sacrificial lamb, the sacrifice that could pay off all sin. So this is a huge doctrine. And John is so serious. Remember, during this time, there were many itinerant preachers that were running around, and the Christians were asked to house many of them. What John is saying here is that if you have someone coming in who wants to preach, quote unquote, their gospel, and you have them in your home, but if they preach that Jesus was not a human while he was here on the earth, John says you are not to even greet them. Do not welcome into your home. And so that's how serious this is. Because the truth is that Jesus did come in flesh. And Jesus himself talked about truth. In his trial, he is before Pilate. And Pilate says, "You are a king then." And Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king, and in fact the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." And of course, Pilate says, "What is truth?" Well, John is telling you the truth is God's word. God's word is what the truth is. And so this is something that's very important. If you try to extend your saying anything other than what God says in his word, then you run the risk of saying something that is not true. So many of us at Heights, believe that we're going to preach the truth of the gospel, the truth of God's word, and nothing else. If we want to add anything else to it, then that is wrong, and we stop doing that. So make sure that you, as a follower of Jesus Christ, love and pay attention to the truth. Those are my encouraging words for you today. I hope you have an amazing Friday, and we'll be talking to you tomorrow.